Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. Sorry we were not here on Monday. I was up in Toronto. And
I'm not sorry. What am I apologizing for?
I was, not you.
Oh, okay.
I was doing it for the both of us, but you sort of ruined that moment of being magnanimous and saying apologizing. So
Mike apologizes. I don't care.
There you go. Yes. Yeah, I needed an extra day to recover from the Bills' loss. Not really. But okay, Russ, start with the pre-show.
So all the coaching stuff in the NFL has gotten to be really ridiculous because it's all happening before the Super Bowl now. And it seemed like there was like this quick carousel that was going on. And it seems like the Giants were the last one to get their coach. And that doesn't happen to the New York Giants. So it came down apparently for Matt Rule going to either Carolina or the Giants. Carolina gave Matt Rule a 6-year offer. Matt Rule went back to the Giants and said, hey, if you match this, I'll come here. And the Giants said, no, thanks. So then they hired Joe Judge, a wide receivers coach from the Patriots. Like, this is the New York Giants. You can't bring in a guy that green into that market. No jet joke, intended on that. It's just, you really can't. The guy could get swallowed up by the media there.
Wasn't there a 1920s Washington Senators outfielder named Joe Judge?
Yes.
Yeah, so probably a grandson or something. Well, I was, because I saw that news break around like 10:30, 11 o'clock this morning, and the talk was that if Rule had stayed with Baylor or gone someplace else, that it was going to be McDaniel or I think Eric Bieniemy, the former Colorado running back. I think he was
apparently Bieniemy got no interviews, which again speaks to the Rooney Rule, right? Like that's a problem too.
Well, the funny thing is that they think the Marvin Lewis interview in Dallas was purely for the Rooney Rule,
which is terrible.
It's like, I mean, but the Giants are no longer the Giants anymore. People have to realize that. I mean, you've got now, Wellington Mara's gone. John Mara's there. You have the Tisch family, them splitting the ownership. The Tisch family apparently wanted everybody gone. Mara was willing to give Shermer and Gettleman another year, so they split the difference. Now they have a dysfunctional situation like the Jets have normally had, where the general manager is not hired the coach, and then it's just a constant schmozzle. It's just not a good situation.
It's a mess. Now, to further show how much of a mess it is, they're trying to bring in Jason Garrett to interview for the offensive coordinator position.
Oh my God.
Think about that for a moment.
Well, I know nothing about Joe Judge.
Nobody does. I mean, unless you're a devout Patriots fan and you know all the routes everybody's running. Most everybody doesn't, but that's the point.
Well, this is the thing.
The point is you got to bring in a guy with a ton of experience to coach the New York Giants.
This is the thing that's hilarious, though, is that if you're a staffer on a team that's going to the Super Bowl, like Baltimore, I know that Greg Roman, the former Bills offensive coordinator, former 49ers offensive coordinator, he's now the coordinator for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. If you're him, you can maybe interview if the team gives you permission, but you can't take that job until probably right before the Super Bowl or even after the Super Bowl. And none of these teams are willing to wait that long. So they're punished for being successful.
That is a part of it. There's no question about it. But it's just ridiculous. That whole league, between that, the refereeing, I mean, your Bills suffered because of the refereeing.
Please.
Even the Carson Wentz hit, I don't think it was a dirty hit in the sense that he targeted that spot because he was already diving, but it was worthy of a 15-yard penalty, and they didn't.
It looked dirtier in slow motion. It definitely did.
But he was moving full speed, but that was not a 15-yard penalty. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and not to get into the individual games, but
No.
I just think overall, I mean, the call in the Saints game late, the consistency of the officiating in the Bills Texans series, Texans game was abysmal. This is the reason why, in a lot of instances, the NFL is unwatchable for me, because it's not like sport. It's like kabuki theater. It's really that bad. And I have no patience for it. And a lot of people in Buffalo, they wanted this team to win their first playoff game in 25 years. They came very close. They were up 16-0, and then they stopped playing and let Houston come back. And they have nobody to blame but themselves. But there was some help there, and that's why, And in the case of New Orleans, they got jobbed by the officiating last year, and now they get jobbed by the officiating this year. So there's consistency, just consistent bad officiating.
That's really bad. And I did put out a tweet yesterday asking how the investigation going into the cheating for the Houston Astros was from a Major League Baseball perspective, and we hear nothing.
Yeah, it's 6 weeks before pitchers and catchers.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. So,
I mean, how long does it take to make an investigation? Like I said, this guy at home did everything probably in a couple of days on YouTube. How long does it take?
I don't know. It's bizarre, but all right, we have lots of hockey to talk about, lots of news. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, January 7th, 2020.
I'm Russ Cohn from Sportsology, and right after the show, I'm going to release my 2020 top 31 rankings for the upcoming draft.
Ooh, okay. I'll retweet that. And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. I'll just give them. We'll start with the news out of Nashville, and then we'll just touch on the World Junior Gold Medal game, and then go into some of the news of the weekend. And yesterday, it was a couple pretty interesting games. Okay, it's funny because Russ and I have been talking off and on since the Winter Classic, and he had made it known even on the Buzzcast last week with Kevin about how Nashville had sort of maybe tuned out Peter Laviolette.
Yeah, and I felt like they had a lot of passengers in that locker room. I did.
And I mean, that was dead on because of what we found out yesterday. But then the peculiar thing was that David Poile came out yesterday and said, well, this is not really on Peter. I'm looking to shake things up. He was definitely sending signals of a roster shakeup and not a coaching shakeup. And then around 6:00 yesterday, it comes down that Peter Laviolette and Kevin McCarthy, his assistant, have been fired. And we find out this morning that John Hines, the former Devils coach, is the replacement. Let's stick with Laviolette. We know that Laviolette has had instances, three that I can think of: Islanders, Carolina, and Philadelphia, where he's very successful, but there's a window of time. And after that window, his message sort of grows.
I'm not going to count the Islanders in this mix because that was a weird situation. I'm going to keep them out of it.
Okay. But definitely in Carolina, definitely in Philadelphia, after a certain amount of time, his message.
He won the cup in one place. He got to the cup in the other place.
Right. But the message grows stale at a certain point, or he gets tuned out. And apparently that's what happened here. But you could tell by the press conference that I was just watching before on NHL Network with David Poile, it's clear he didn't want to do this, Russ.
Right. But I think what David Poile was trying to do the other day was seeing if there was a GM that was willing to make a deal that he could shake up the locker room with. But as we found, it's hard to make deals right now. Mm-hmm. And I think when that didn't happen, he knew what the next thing he had to do was, because they needed to shake up that locker room and hope the players would start listening to Laviolette again. It's not that he's a bad coach, but that was a horrible loss in the Winter Classic. You gave up 4 unanswered goals. It's a 4-point swing. Like, everybody saw it on national TV. Laviolette took a timeout. After the timeout, the team didn't respond. Like, that used to be gold for that coach, to be able to do the timeout and get a response out of his team. And so those are all the bad signs, all the signs you really needed to know that something had to change. And that's why I talked about it, that next day, because I felt like something did need to change. and didn't know if it was going to be a trade or the coaching right away, but knew it would be something.
Well, ironically, other than the Philadelphia Flyers, who are tied for the wild card spot in the East, Nashville is the only non-playoff team that has a plus differential. But they are 5 points behind Winnipeg and Vancouver in the wild card race. They are 7 points behind third place Dallas. So it was at this point that Poyle's looking at the schedule, looking at the point differential, and saying, I've got to make some sort of move now, because if I don't in a week or two, if I wait till after the All-Star break, it might be a bridge too far.
Right.
Or in your vernacular, a bridge too close.
That was good. I like that one.
Yes, I like mine better.
Yours was good, but a bridge too close, Mike. There's no reason to have the film after that.
I know. But in that situation, he had to make his move now, because mathematically, if you wait a couple more weeks, it might be impossible for them to catch up.
Yeah, it's one of these things now where you're bringing in a new coach. Now, this coach coaches a very defensive game. So if you want to say he's different than Laviolette, that's fine. But this team is built defensively. And so I don't think they need a guy that will suffocate their offense more to make sure that they play well in front of their goalie. I get goaltending is a situation there, and it's not great. I get it. But it could turn out to be better. It was better earlier in the year. But that team needs to have more offense. They need to get more scoring out of guys like Johansson and Turris and Granlund, like we talked about. And right now, apparently, these guys are hard to trade. So,
well, ironically, they were
a tough job.
Ironically, early in the year when they were doing well, they were scoring a lot. They were Duchesne was scoring well. Johansson was scoring a lot of goals. Lately, that has not been the case. But I know that listening to Hockey Central, they emphasized the goaltending of Pekka Rinne, whose goals against is a little just slightly under 3 with a save percentage. I think it was around 910, which is okay, but not great. And Saros, who you've been a critic of, his goals against is 3.23. And that's just not, that
doesn't cut it.
And he's being used more than the normal backup. He's a lot more games.
I just, you look at it and you say, what has John Hines done in the league? If you want to say the Devils aren't great, that's fine. He made the playoffs once. He's barely a 500 coach. So now is he going to have a Joe Torre rise to the top? At least Joe Torre did something with Atlanta before he did something with the Yankees and had first place. Hines didn't even have that kind of success. So he did in the AHL. I just think this is a safe hire, and I don't think it's a great hire, but we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, Saros 3.25 goals against, 892 save percentage.
I do want to point this out too, because Chris Stewart brought it up on Twitter. Because I think we're done with Nashville, right? I don't know if there's anything else. He brought up a situation yesterday where he said, and he put up like a sign that was, I don't know, at a restaurant or something. Austin Matthews for the Maurice Richard Trophy, talk me out of it. And I tweeted and I said, okay, well, Pasternak has more goals. He has more power play goals. The Bruins have a better power play than the Leafs. I'm going to go with Pasternak. And he didn't even try and debate it. And it's like, maybe he didn't see it. But to me, and I love Austin Matthews, but I don't think there's much of a debate here.
No, I don't. I like Austin Matthews is fantastic. There's no doubt about it. He's one of the best scorers in the league. Pasternak is always on the first power play. He's always going to play probably close to 20 minutes a night. And he's less streaky than Matthews. Matthews can be streaky. So I'm not taking anything away from Austin Matthews.
None of us are.
I think he has 27. He's having a great year.
Yeah, I think he might be.
And I can understand, like a Leafs fan's belief that he's going to be.
This isn't a Leafs fan. This is a guy on Hockey Central.
Right. Well, I'm just saying. There's the Leafs fans' belief that he could be a Richard Trophy winner, or that he could score 50 goals. It all depends on how long he stays hot, how long he stays with Mitch Marner as his winger. If he switches back to Nylander, we know he'll have a regular pace. But Marner was able to get John Tavares to 47 goals with his playmaking, so I think that's a factor. But I mean, while we're talking Leafs, we'll switch to the game in a second here. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on the World Junior before, because it's a couple days old, so it's a little bit of old news. But I'm not taking any credit away from Team Canada, because they had an excellent tournament. They were a really good young team, a lot of future star players. Hayton showed a lot of guts playing in that game.
Hey, he couldn't even take faceoffs.
Yeah, apparently they had to get permission from the Coyotes and from his parents for him to play because of the injury that he had.
See, my mother would have been like, "He's not playing," and she would have made headlines around the world. What
are you going to pay me to make him play? Yeah, no.
It wouldn't be a pay thing. It would just be like, he's not playing. She took me out of a game once when I got hit in the eye, and I was pitching a great game, and it started to swell a little bit, and she told the manager, and the manager had to come out to the mound and take me out of a Little League game. So she would take me out, man.
Jeez. But that being said, I put this, as much as I'll give Canada credit, I put this loss squarely on Russia, because Russia had them. They were 3-1 in the third period, about halfway through. And at that point, Russia gives up a goal less than a minute later to get Canada right back into it. If they would have been able to hold on to that 2-goal lead for maybe 5 minutes, it probably would have been a bridge too far for the Canadians to tie that game and then get the winning goal. But I thought the Russians played terrible defensively. Their goaltending let them down late in the third period, and they
lost their discipline.
They lost their cool. I mean, Denisenko. I mean, okay, you can lose your cool because you thought it was going to be a puck over the glass and it hit the camera. That's what I get that. Now that's just the interpretation of the rule. You lose your mind and if you throw your stick when you still have a power play with
that was crazy.
What are you doing?
Yeah, and that's those kinds of things are the kinds of things that people had always pointed to about Russia before, and it looked like they were going to get past it. I'll give myself a little credit because I picked Canada, U.S., Russia, and so that was pretty close. And we talked about how the U.S. really did underperform for the roster they had. So I'm not shocked that Canada won, but the way they won was impressive. And the fact that Veleno was taking those faceoffs for Hayton, and Hayton was their best player, I'm surprised. But in the last year, you could see that Barrett Hayton was coming on. I'm not sure he was ready for the NHL yet, but I think they wanted to give him that boost, and you saw that boost in this tournament, and the guy's got guts, and you know what? Good pick, man. He's a good kid.
Yeah, and Alexis Lafreniere, wow.
Yeah, there's no debate, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, wow. I mean, I don't think there's any question. It's not a Matthews Laine who's the number one pick. He's the number one pick. But I mean,
for the one biggest reason that I felt was, like I told you, I would want him out there last 5 minutes of a game, so it was 6 minutes when he scored that goal, right? Last shift, last power play, last everything, because he could put in a goal like that.
Yeah, a couple other things. Askarov, Funky Cold Zadina in the chat said he looked horrible.
He's young, man.
I'll just say he's 17 years old.
Yeah, goalies in that tournament, it's hard to begin with.
Yeah, and they went to the more experienced goaltender after they pulled him after 4 goals against Sweden. And I didn't know much about him, and he didn't play particularly well.
He's undrafted. He's okay.
Yeah, but he's not, he's not Spencer Knight. He's not.
Kannanen was great for Finland.
And the Canadian goaltender.
Hard was good, and then he wasn't. Like, that happens.
Yeah, but the goalie that they was a Hoyer. I'm sorry, Hoyer, or I'm sorry, Hofer. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank there. Yeah, I know he played great. So yeah, I mean, I think he was goalie of the tournament. The other interesting little debate, and this, of course, it had to be between Leaf fans and Habs fans, that who the defensive player of the tournament was. Whether it was Alexander Romanov, who's a Canadian second-round pick from last year, 2018, from the 2018 draft, or Rasmus Sandeen, who had 10 points. And I mean, I was impressed with Romanov. They're two completely different defensemen.
They really are. I mean,
Romanov is a more physical defenseman who I think has some decent offensive ability, but I don't think he's going to be anything more. And don't jump down my throat, Habs fans. If you score 35 to 40 points in the NHL, you're still a really good defenseman. He's going to be a more physical guy. I think he's more in sort of the Provorov mode than anything, which is a good mold to be. But Sandeen showed, and I'm not going to say superstar ability because it's the juniors, World Juniors. You don't know what he's going to do.
He's been playing as a pro already, so you knew he'd have a leg up.
Yeah, and he had 10. I mean, in the biggest game of the year for them, he had 2 goals and 2 assists.
Right. It's exactly what you would expect from him being close to the NHL as he is. So I would give the nod to Sandeen. I mean, to me, that's not a real stretch.
Yeah.
And I do think you're right. I don't think when you bring up Romanov, he's going to give you instant offense, where Sandeen might give you some offense off the bat.
Yeah, and there was talk on the hockey on the Saturday night headlines that the Leafs may consider bringing up Sandeen later in the season. Where, I mean, it might happen. And the only reason I think that it might happen is this is the same thing that the same decision that they made with Nylander a few years ago. They're not concerned about burning the first year of ELC. They're more concerned about not having him go over 40 games for the UFA. Now,
no, I get that. But if you're bringing him up with 35 games to go in a pressure cooker type of the season, it's not exactly the best way to break in a rookie.
I agree. I would keep him down with the Marlies, but they're saying that they're at least thinking of it.
I would do it this way. I would keep him with the Marlies. If you make the playoffs, if you want to add him to the playoff roster, and in case there's injury, great. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd bring him into that kind of situation.
I think it may be the factor that right now Jake Muzzin is out probably for another 5 or 6 weeks. I saw him at the game yesterday, still in a boot. So he's nowhere close to being back. And right now they're playing Martin Marincin main minutes on the left side. That's a fate worse than death. So you have to make consideration for that. We'll see. I mean, it's not carved in stone. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
Yeah, I would stay away from that.
But anyway, so last night the game of the night was on NBCSN and on TSN, the Leafs and the Oilers. And
so they show Connor McDavid on NBC, just for those people that always tell me that they don't. They do a little bit now. They do. But we don't know what kind of ratings. I'm going to have to look it up to see what kind of ratings an all-Canadian matchup gets in the States.
Well, I'll be curious because, I mean, you've got American Star and Matthews.
Yeah.
2 Canadian markets. So I'm sure Buffalo will be the highest rated of the cities watching that game. But I'll say this: the Leafs over the 10-game point streak have dug themselves out of holes based on their offensive ability, covering up for defensive errors, and just they're just not a very good defensive club. I mean, they
not very good, I think, is a nice term now for some of the horrible plays that they didn't make. Like, look, Draisaitl's goal is a great goal.
Yeah. Off the post.
The McDavid goal, I told you, I think there's something wrong with Riley. And
let's wait on that one.
Okay.
Because I'll talk about that one.
There was another goal where they let somebody go through 3 or 4 guys.
Well, the one that I was at the game yesterday, and the one that I was just puzzled at was McDavid coming into the Leaf zone. This was, I think, the goal that made it 2-0. He came into the Leaf zone, and the defensive pairing was Marincin and Hall. And Marincin was stuck in between a rock and a hard place, but he put himself there. He wasn't aggressive to go at him because he was afraid that McDavid was going to burn him like he ended up burning Riley later in the game. So he was passive. He stuck his stick out. He was too far away from him to put the stick to make it do anything other than just say, hey, here's my stick. And then McDavid sat back, waited, hit the trailer in Nurse, who blew it by Anderson. That's the prerogative of a great player, that you intimidate the other team by just holding on to the puck. But I mean, the only way that they have been successful at corralling McDavid in the past is by being aggressive with him, and they weren't aggressive with him at all. They were very passive. He had 3 assists yesterday before, walking around Morgan Riley like he was standing still. He was, it took a little extra time in the locker room for him to come out because he was too busy finding his jock after he'd been deked out of it by McDavid. This is the thing. I like Morgan Riley a lot. He's a great defenseman. He has been a great defenseman. Last year he had his career year, 72 points, 20 goals. Last night was the 32nd game in a row that he has not scored a goal. He has not scored a goal since October 25th. He was sitting out practices earlier in the year for an unknown injury. He has been practicing regularly since, but something is off.
No, there's something wrong with him. I saw the way he couldn't stop on a dime and react to what McDavid did. Not that he gave up on the play, but it's almost like he had to because he couldn't recover. We couldn't recapture a step. And I saw it one other time that night too. So I just feel like there's something there.
Yeah. And, the thing that, and we'll move on after this, the thing that was that drew the most attention after the game was the fact that Freddie Anderson got pulled after 19 shots, 3 goals and 19 shots. And I don't think he was I think he was responsible for one of them. The other 2 were not his fault. But Keefe pulled him, went to him, and Anderson for very few times showed an emotional reaction. He was pissed off. He threw his mask to the ground. Keefe went to him and said, "This is not on you. I'm just not," and he said after the game that I couldn't let Freddie stay out there the way the team was playing in front of him. And I think that's true because they pulled him. They put in Hutchinson. They immediately got a goal. They narrowed the gap to 4-3 before the Oilers responded in the third period. This is a signal with the Leafs that you can score all the goals when you're clicking offensively. You're going to go on big winning streaks, but when you have to play hockey that's more similar to a playoff style, close checking, you're not going to win because you're not playing tight defense.
Right.
And last night, I saw Cassian take a few runs at people. The Leafs don't have any pushback. I mean, there are reasons why I bring this stuff up. Everybody thinks I'm some sort of Neanderthal who's talking about, just wanting to see knuckle draggers all over the ice. No, teams that won the Stanley Cup over the last few years have had a physical aspect to them. St. Louis has, Washington has, Pittsburgh has. You can't win on pure skill. You need other things besides skill.
But Freddie Gauthier scored, Mark.
Oh, yes. The Winnipeg Jets beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-2. The game marked the debut of Ilya Kovalchuk in the Bleu, Blanc, et Rouge. Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking up right now how many minutes. Ilya Kovalchuk, who hadn't played a game since November, played 19 minutes and 25 seconds and on the first power play.
Yeah, I mean, you knew that they were going to force the issue on this. And my contention is, if this team were healthier, would he be a top liner on the top power play? Top power play, yes. Top liner, no way. So how long is this going to work for, and how sustainable is this? And they still lost.
Yeah, I'm just looking up Kovalchuk right now in terms of the breakdown. How many shifts he had? Here we go. Kovalchuk had 25 shifts. Second highest on the team next to Shea Weber. 19 minutes and 25 seconds. He was a +2, so I'll give him that. He was on the ice for both. He had an assist, and he played 2 minutes and 28 seconds of power play time. The only player that played more power play time than him was Max Domi. Nick Suzuki was -3, Russ, in 15 minutes of ice time. Now, the problem is here with the Habs is that they were not talented enough even when they had everybody. Now they don't have everybody. Gallagher's out, Byron's out, Armia's out, Drouin's out, and They're not scoring goals.
Right.
Completely dependent on Carey Price to be perfect. They're playing Shea Weber 22 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a low night for him.
That's a low night.
I mean, I'm sorry. This is the prophecy. This is what we saw at the beginning of the year. Everything would have to be perfect for that team to make the playoffs, and things have been far from perfect.
Yeah, they've been far from perfect. I mean, I don't think this makes Montreal much better. I just don't.
Other games last night, the Islanders. Now you said you checked in on this one. The Islanders
I watched a lot of it.
With an exciting 1-0 victory over the Colorado Avalanche. But this is the type of game that the Islanders have to win. They have to keep, and it's an achievement that you kept the Avalanche offense off track, that you were able to get a 1-0 victory.
And Francouz probably gave up a soft goal on that too. But it is what it is. Anders Lee got a goal. He needed it. They won one of those games where they had to play this way. Are they going to continue to win when they have to play this way? I don't know. It'll be interesting tonight, though, because, the Avalanche go back-to-back, and that's Igor Shesterkin's first game. And I think that's a good matchup for him, even though you could say, well, the Avalanche lost, they'll be mad, whatever. I think it's good for him to get in right away. I think getting them on their back-to-back is good. So I think there's a positive there. There's a funny aspect to the Avalanche, too. Apparently TMZ went and interviewed Nathan McKinnon. They do guys at the airport, and he was like, "Why are you interviewing me? I'm not famous enough. Not enough people know who I am." And that was kind of interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
It would be one thing if it was Deadspin, because usually they concentrate on sports, but it was TMZ. So
yeah. So I found that to be interesting. I can't find any TV ratings for yesterday, so
maybe tomorrow
maybe tomorrow.
The other game was the Blue Jackets beating the LA Kings 4-2. I think I read it right. The Blue Jackets are 9-1-4 in their last 14 games, and now Elvis is 3-1-1 or 3-1 in the 4 starts since.
This is what happened the last time he was in there, and then it started to really taper off.
Well, I mean, I have to give Tortorella and that team a lot of credit, because I don't think there's a ton of talent there, and they're still able to get some victories. And they could be a player at the deadline, not only because if they stay in the race to be somebody who could make a late run, but they have a ton of cap space because of all the players that they that jettisoned or that left at the end of last year. They didn't spend a ton of money, so they could be a player in terms of taking on salary from other teams, maybe trying to find a player that fits.
I mean, in 14 games, Elvis has a 908 and a 286 goals against. So, I mean, he's had ups and downs. Right now, this is when he's playing well again. He's going to need to play this well all the time.
Yeah.
Can he do that?
Now, just talking about because I think we discussed the trades that were made last week, the Scandella deal, the Pro League deal. But, there's a lot of chatter about the trade deadline, about what's going to happen, a lot of chatter about guys like Kreider and other deals that are possible. And, teams like Nashville looking to make a deal, or Ken Holland was on Toronto radio yesterday and was asked by Ashley Docking, one of the morning hosts on Fan 590, about what the Oilers are going to do, because they're sort of in that in between right now. They might be in third place in the Pacific, but they were in the wild card spot. But if they lose 2 games or something like that, they're not in a wild card spot. They're right now at 51 points, 1 point above the 2 wild card spots. So she asked Holland about, what about making some trades to help out McDavid and Draisaitl, and he said, well, we're hoping to get into the playoffs. We'd like to make some acquisitions, but we don't want to mortgage our future. And I was talking to some reporters yesterday, and they said, okay, you can have it one way or you can have it the other. If you're going to make a run for the playoffs to get players who are going to help you,
right,
you have to mortgage a little bit of your future. You don't want to trade. In the case of Edmonton, I'm sure Edmonton doesn't want to trade Evan Bouchard or Philip Broberg or Kaylor Yamamoto or any of their younger guys who they think they have potential. But you're going to have to trade somebody or something to get a player that's going to help you. And that's what I don't understand. It's like how I think it's being disingenuous to say that, well, we're going to try to make an addition, but we're not going to give the team that's going to trade you a player is going to want future for that player.
Yes. Yeah, no question. They're gonna. It's hard to make deals right now. It just is, and they're gonna want future. If you want to, if you're one of these teams, or let's say the Flyers, right? Justin Braun's out with a groin injury, not coming back till after the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. So, if you want to get a defenseman, you're going to have to give up a major talent. You are going to have to give up, if you want to get like a defenseman who's inexpensive in this league, you are going to have to give up like a Joel Farabee type prospect to do it. So if it's Bobby Brink, you're going to have to give up Bobby Brink. So how much do you want to do that now to try and save your season? A lot of teams don't. So now they give you the rhetoric that the Islanders are doing, like, hey, we think we've got everything covered within. We're just going to put more responsibility on Zach Boychuk. That's like, Zach Boychuk is basically like you having your 1987 Dodge Durango, and you think you could put like 500 pounds in it, and you're like, we can go 600. It can handle it. And it can't. And then the suspension breaks.
Right. And you're in the shop for 3 weeks.
By the way, I struggle to come up with a truck name because I will never buy a truck. Ever.
A Ford F-150. Yes. No, I think, but we were talking about this before the show. Look at the contortions that 3 teams had to make deals last week. Okay, Montreal had to trade Mike Riley and his $1.5 million salary to Ottawa just to clear enough cap space to take on Marco Scandella at $4 million.
Right.
Because the Sabres weren't going to retain salary because they wanted to open up space for Frolik. So they took on the full $4 million, but the only way they could do that was to trade Mike Riley to Ottawa, and that left them enough room to sign Kovalchuk at a prorated $700,000. Then the Sabres trade the draft pick that they get for Scandella. They trade that to Calgary for Frolik, who I believe still hasn't played a game for them because of immigration issues. But the point is that teams had to move around money like that, and we're in that. This was in late December, early January. I mean, it may loosen up a bit in terms of prorated amounts for these players as we get closer to the deadline. But teams like Chicago, who had $11 million in cap space, open up because of LTIR on Seabrook and DeHaan. Mm-hmm. They're going to use that cap space because it's going to be extremely valuable. I mean, in terms of getting draft picks or maybe even getting players who are under contract that will help them going forward. But Stan Bowman would be abrogating his responsibility as a general manager if he didn't take advantage of that, because the cap situation in this league is so tight that they have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, the cap is ridiculous. And so I don't think much else is going to happen until the deadline. And then I think you'll see a little bit more. But right now, teams can't do it. And if they do it, they're going to pay too big a price. And so they're going to have to just deal with what they have. And you know what? It's not great. But that's why the offseason is so important. It really is.
Now, somebody mentioned when we were talking about Edmonton and who they could trade for, the name of Athanasiou came out. And obviously it makes sense because of Holland and his previous connection with Detroit. And, he's a speedy guy. He can play center or wing. And him with McDavid would probably be really impressive. The problem is you're going to have to give up something good for Athanasiou.
Right.
You're not getting him, for Josh Archibald.
No. No, I mean, he is going to ask for a lot, and that's why he hasn't traded him yet. That's the honest truth.
And based on Detroit's need on defense, I mean, they have Mort Seider, they have Chalowski, they have Roenick and DeKaiser, but they need help on defense. They're losing 3 defensemen in free agency this year, all of them over the age of 34. They need help on the blue line. They're going to be asking for Broberg. They're going to be asking for Semerkov. So I mean, that's that. You know, we know that Holland is not giving up Evan Bouchard, but we know that that's in any deal where Detroit is trading a guy who is not a UFA, who's could be retained for a couple years. They're going to want a defenseman.
All right, so I have breaking news.
Go ahead.
Some of these NBC shows are getting really lousy ratings. Wow.
Like which ones?
Like The Good Place, right? I just caught up with that one, and it's a good show. It's got Ted Danson, and right now, year to date, it is down 27%. Now they still get over 2 million viewers a show, but that's down a lot. And this isn't the last year. They're canceling. This Is Us is down 23%. Now they still get 7 million viewers, so obviously they're not that worried, but it's still down 23%. Law and Order? There's 1,000 million Law and Order, so I get it.
Well, what about Chicago PD? Chicago
PD is down 2%.
That's not bad then.
That's not bad. Actually, that's one of the better performing shows. But you know what this proves? And you kind of wonder about what the NHL will do here. Maybe the next TV deal shouldn't be with NBC. Maybe the next TV deal should be with Netflix.
Well, or ESPN, ABC, because then it gives them access to cable and like remember when this deal started, they basically had to convert Versus into NBCSN. They had to almost create a cable network to play the games. They have the games on weekly. Whereas like on NBC, they don't go on NBC on Sundays until after the football season. I think it's like January.
Yeah.
So, they're on Sundays. They're in Sundays, and it's going from January to April, and then the playoffs go, CNBC, MSNBC, whatever, the other NBC affiliated networks. Yeah, I mean, we know there's going to be changes. I don't know.
Streaming now is a massive thing, and that's what's cutting into all this.
Yeah, I somehow think that the NHL, first of all, I think the NHL is going to do what the NBA has done, and they're going to spread out their TV packages to multiples. It'll be like, it's TBS, TNT, ABC, ESPN. They're gonna, they'll have like a Sunday night package for ESPN or something like that. It'll go on other networks. They're gonna go where the money is. Maybe there will be something that's on YouTube or on Netflix or.
Yeah, I just think there's something there because, we're talking about all of these places cutting into. So let's just see, as an example. All right, so let's just say you wanted to do this with YouTube. YouTube charges $50 a month. So they're cheaper than a regular cable thing. So maybe you do offer YouTube 3 games a week. You give them a break on that, and you do that because maybe there's a lot of young people on YouTube and it's worth it to you.
Right.
To do it.
You're going to have to make those games good, though. It can't be. It can't be. You're going to throw them devils.
YouTube's a good choice because I think if you've gotten rid of cable, you might have gone to them because they've picked up a lot of networks. Now, Amazon Prime Video does something with the NFL. If you did it with the NHL, they're $8.99 a month. I think that's about what we're paying like on regular cable for NHL Network, right? It's about $8, something like that.
$12 for me.
So to me, I just give them NHL Network. Whatever shows on NHL Network, you can have it now on Amazon Prime. Like, why wouldn't I do that?
We'll take some questions in the chat. Bardicus1, do you think Drake Batherson gets a longer look this call up?
Yeah, I do. There's no reason not to.
I don't know what his situation is in terms of burning ELC. I think he's over 10 games already, but
he is. He is.
Remember, oh boy, hold on. Not interested. Thank you. Remember, it may be a situation where they don't want to burn a year towards the UFA. Anything that burns a year of ELC costs Eugene Melnick more money. So,
but if he looks good, it makes trading Pajot a lot easier.
Yes, that's true. But I think that's a foregone conclusion already because I think they're going to.
Yeah, but you have to sell it to the fan base.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I'm just looking right now to see what Batherson, how many games he's played. Last year he played 20, so he already started the clock. He's played 3 games, 1 assist in 3 games. He's got 41 points in 33 games with Belleville. So he's scoring it over a point per game in the AHL. Yeah, at this point, why not? Because
all right, I do have some other breaking news.
Okay.
According to The Athletic, in 2018, the Red Sox stole 3 of the Red Sox stole signals in the World Series. 3 unnamed members of the 2018 Red Sox admitted that the team used the video replay room to steal signs throughout that season. Ken Rosenthal and Evan Drellick report.
Oh, now I thought stealing signs meaning like deciphering the other team's signs. That's one thing. Using video.
That's a whole other ball game, man. So now this is getting bad. So we have to do something.
What is the common thread here? Alex friggin' Cora. He was one of the triumvirate, him, Beltran, and I can't remember, there was another player or another member of management that were the main guys for the 2017 Astros using video to steal signals. And then Cora went to the Red Sox. And by the way, the Red Sox played the Astros in the ALCS. And just by happenstance, because I think Cora knew what they were doing, they probably called a moratorium, or they decided, okay, we got to, because that advantage didn't show up in 2018.
Right. This is getting bad.
This is getting bad. And gee, boy, it makes me sad that two of the Yankees' biggest competitors are just being caught up in this controversy. Anyway, all right. Davy Jones asks, do you think that San Jose will go after Georgiev?
Do I think who's going after him?
The Sharks.
Yeah, I do think there's a chance, but will the Sharks part with someone like Kevin LeBanc for him? That's a kid who's a local area kid, reasonable contract, but he's going to have to get paid next year. Sharks don't have the room for him. Would they give up a talent like that? If they would do that trade, I think the Rangers would do it.
Well, they do have the room for him. I mean, because they're going to have expiring contracts like Dylan and Carlson's.
They're also going to have to pay Georgiev.
And, well, no, right. True.
If you're keeping them.
Right. And that would be, like we said, it'd be at least a couple $1 million. And if it's a deal like a Ranta or a Kemper, where they want to get him signed for longer than a year.
And I don't think you could trade Martin Jones, so that's just your tandem now.
No, you could trade Aaron Dell, basically, because he's an
expensive UFA anyhow.
Right. But I'm saying for room this year, you could, But they can just let him walk. Somebody, Chris Duffy in the chat says, call the Seattle team the Seattle Durangos after the Durangos. There you go.
I like it. I mean, I wish we would hear about this name already. I think it's next month that we're finding out.
It's going to be the All-Star game, isn't it?
I'll put the All-Star game. Okay.
Yeah, it's just, please, just get it over with. Let's see here. Hold on. I saw one from Terry GG&G, but I cannot seem to find it now. So I'm just going back here.
Retype it, otherwise you lose, man.
Thomas Boyle says, are the Islanders going to trade Sorokin?
I think there's a chance. I think if the message is clear that he is not going to comply, they might trade the rights for him. But Lou doesn't generally do that. So, conventional thinking says no.
Just to answer Bardicus, because we covered this, but what do we think of Anderson's pull last night? Well, Keefe said after the game that it wasn't Anderson that he was dissatisfied with. It was the team in front of Anderson, and he was basically pulling him just to get a spark out of them. And to an extent, he did. But then in the third period, there
was a really bad clear by Hutchinson, right?
The fifth goal was not good.
No.
So, I mean, let's just say this. I think Hutchinson's better than he's being portrayed this year. He had a good performance against the Islanders on the weekend. I don't think they were looking forward to, looking
Yeah,
forward.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this about a backup goalie. It's worse than being a reliever in baseball, because when you're a reliever in baseball, you really are only getting judged by what you do and not the team behind you. When you're Hutchinson coming into a game like that where your team is playing like utter crap, what can you do as the backup goalie, honestly?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a change of pace, but I mean, there was some talk about them putting Anderson back in the third period. They should have done it, and that's Monday morning quarterbacking. You don't know.
It doesn't happen very often. Usually, if it happens, it's because of injury.
Right, and it wasn't because of injury.
I mean, to put him back in after getting pulled.
Right. Dean Youngblood says Ricky Gervais's speech at the Golden Globes was sensational.
It was, but here's the one thing I want to caution people about. So let's say you're Ted Nugent and you're saying, good, Ricky, because you called out everyone in Hollywood. Ricky hates you too for the hunting you do. So don't think that he's your guy either.
Did he mention Ted Nugent?
No. Ted Nugent mentioned Ricky at a concert.
Oh.
He was applauding him, and then Ricky would, if Ted Nugent tweeted to him and said something about hunting, Ricky would be like, "I'm against hunting, you idiot." So
yeah. And he was making a big deal about the vegan meal,
right?
Golden Globes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the way this guy always is. I love him because I believe he's as honest as you could be, and he really doesn't care. But I think a lot of people picked out and parsed things that they like, but I think they would find that if they listened to him more, there'd be a lot of things they wouldn't like too.
Yeah, I like him, but there are a lot of things I don't.
Very smart. I think he's smart.
Yeah, I mean, him going after Mel Gibson was funny, but I
Jeffrey Epstein.
I loved, and that I loved the attack on the best joke of the night was that the movie Cats was the worst thing for cats since dogs.
That was a great line.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the James Corden joke or the Judi Dench joke because they got bleeped out. And anyway, Terry GG&G, are the Leafs still in the market for a defenseman or two, especially now that it looks like they got a few defensemen injured to affect?
I mean, nobody could get two, so let's cross that off the list.
Well, okay, this is the thing. Muzzin will be back, but Muzzin is not going to be back until probably early to mid-February. It's a broken. Right. They can survive based on the fact that their scoring will cover up for their defensive flaws. But if they want to win in the playoffs, their defense isn't good enough. But it's not just the blue line. It is the team defense. They play, I think it's improved under Keefe. It's just still not to playoff caliber level. And that's where they have, that may take time. That may take longer than this year. They're going to try to improve their chances as much as possible because they're going to lose Barry after this year. Right. They're probably going to lose Muzzin, although I think there's still a chance that they re-sign him. They're going to lose players. And I still think if they're going to try out and go out for a defenseman in free agency, that they're going to have to trade either Janssen or Kapanen or Nylander and create space. So, I think they'll try to make a tweaking move. One of the things I think they might do is get somebody to take Cody Ceci for the rest of the year so they can clear cap space to make another move. But, maybe they could move a Kapanen or a Janssen in season, but I don't know if $3 million is enough room to add another defenseman unless another team retains salary or it's somebody who's young and on an entry-level contract. And they're looking forward to giving up Andreas Janssen and Kasperi Kapanen, just for flexibility. They're going to want.
Yeah, they're not going to do that.
Yeah, they're going to want a first-round pick, or they're going to want a good young player on defense in return. So, Dubas is creative. I think we'll see him do something. I just don't know what.
It won't be two defensemen. They won't. Now, if they bring up one from the Marlies, that's fine, but they won't be able to add two new ones.
Yeah, I think that's where I think Sandeen could come in.
I still don't, but it's okay.
But yeah, let's see here. Any more questions? A lot of Ricky Gervais commentary. Thank you very much.
What would they say?
Oh, just Ricky doesn't like anybody.
No, that's not true. I mean, he's very pro-animal. I don't think that's. I mean, there's more that he dislikes than he likes. I think that's fair.
He called out Apple, which I was appreciative of.
Yeah, and Tim Cook was right there.
Yeah, they showed a picture of him. See, that's the thing. When somebody says, Leonardo DiCaprio after the movie, the 3-hour movie of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he looked to his date and his date was too old.
Right. That was a good one.
And then makes a Prince Andrew joke on top of it. Funky, the Leafs don't want Mike Green.
I wouldn't say that.
I don't think they want Mike Green.
I mean, you never know. I mean, it really depends on what the terms are.
I
would say most likely not, but you know what?
He's a shadow of his former self.
He still could, Mike. He could still work a power play.
Yeah, but they don't need that. They got Riley.
Well, you could take Riley off the power play, especially if he's hurting, and if you put Mike Green there, you might improve it.
Yeah, I mean, and he's not. He's 35 years old and he still stinks defensively.
Everybody said that about Gonchar, yet Gonchar kept having moments every couple of years.
Is there any update? This is Davy Jones. Is there any update in Ottawa about the team relocating? Nothing.
Sure.
Nothing that I've heard. There's been no progress on the building from what I've heard. I would think that we would hear something about this one way or the other before the end of next season, because either that LeBreton Flats or something else downtown gets going.
La Brea Tar Pit, something.
Or they start openly considering Quebec City. I mean,
Ottawa's still there, eh?
Yeah, it's I just can't imagine if they don't get something going there. They can't stay in Canada. That's a waste. That's just a waste. And nobody's there's thousands of seats empty they're empty because the team is rebuilding. But even when they were in the conference final, there were thousands of seats. So things haven't changed. El Guapo asks, was there any player that surprised you at the World Junior, Russ?
Well, see, that would have to break my draft list thing to say it.
Then I'll say it.
There's a guy, Christian Tanis was really great for Finland. I'll give you that hint. And then
Samuel Fagemo from Sweden.
Yeah, Fagemo was really good. He's another one that I think really, and that's a Kings draft pick, right? So good for the Kings because they know how to pick them. He was another one that really showed something. I mean, look, I think for a young defenseman, Jamie Drysdale was given a lot of responsibility and did well.
Yeah, at the beginning of the tournament, he was basically the 7th defenseman, but I think he was used more than – and remember, that was 2 years ago. That was Cale Makar.
Right.
They were using him as the 7th defenseman.
Yep.
Only in power play and offensive situations.
Yeah.
Barticus, I know he's an overager, but I'm saying, he –
yeah, we all know that. I mean –
yeah, but he was extremely impressive. He was scoring, consistently. I'm not saying
everybody has to be 17 when we're saying, hey, they surprised us. I mean, that's, just a question. We answer it.
Frenchie Ben, I'll give you a one-word answer to your question. It's probably too long to read all the names of a massive Habs Kings trade that he's proposing. No, it's not happening. Let's see here. Seattle, if they were smart, would name the NHL team the Starbucks. Okay. No. I just wish they'd get it over with. I'm tired of the Sasquatch jokes and this and that. It's like, let's just
Seattle Slugs would be a great name. Embrace the slug. It rains there a lot. The slugs are everywhere. I saw chocolate slugs when I was in Seattle once. Like, just embrace it. It'd be great.
We didn't see any slugs there except balls that were slugged out of the park at the.
Yeah, we weren't looking though, Mike. You got to look for the slug. The slug's not showing up in the big city.
It's like the New Jersey Devil.
No, slugs are right in your backyard. All you got to do is lift a mat. There they are.
Yeah, I'm for the Sasquatch, but I'm more for the Seattle Metropolitans.
No, God forbid. No.
No, I think that's a great name. It's at least
not great. No, there already is a team with that name, and you don't want another team with that name.
well, not a real good team, but
All
right. I will end it there. Thanks for watching. We will be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.